The Detroit Lions take on the Seattle Seahawks in 6 days, Monday Night Football, Week 4. And there is so much to get into about this game. This is going to be the 4th year in a row that these two teams are facing off. In the 3rd consecutive year that they're playing at Ford Field. The last 2 matchups that took place in Detroit, I kind of look at as separate. I don't really count that 3rd game because this has been the matchup of Geno Smith versus Jared Goff. And of those 2 matchups, the Seahawks won both of them, and there was 21 total touchdowns scored between those 2 games. 21. 7 were scored by wide receivers, 3 were scored by tight ends, 8 by running backs, 1 by a QB, and 2 by the Seattle defense. Jared Goff has been picked off for a pick 6, 2 straight years, and I swear that better not continue this year for the Lions. Otherwise, I will lose my mind. We got lucky last week against the Cardinals. Please don't let that happen this year. In a total from the last 2 games, there has been 1,886 yards of total offense. These offenses are almost averaging 500 yards against each other per game. If you want to take into account the matchup from 2021, there was 10 touchdowns scored in that game, 3 from running backs, 6 from wide receivers, and 1 from an O-lineman. Shout out Decker. Bringing the touchdown total to 31 through their last 3 matchups. It would have been cool if this was the 4th consecutive year that Jared Goff would have been taking on the Seahawks. Sadly, he sat out that matchup in Seattle. Additionally, this Detroit football team haven't beat the Birds in over a decade. And just playing 4 consecutive years isn't the only history between these 2 teams. 2016 Lions, Matthew Stafford led a 9-7 season, securing the Detroit Lions a playoff berth in Seattle, which they would go on to sadly lose. But this was the last time that the Lions made the playoffs before they did this past year. And Geno Smith and his crew beat the Rams Week 18 to take the last playoff spot and keep Detroit out. In each of these respective teams' last playoff game, they both also lost to the same opponent. Overall, it's a super exciting matchup to get into with a lot of history. I'm sure this Lions football team wants revenge. However, at the same time, it's still a bit different as the Seahawks have a new coach, Mike Macdonald, who's starting out 3-0, and both these teams bring new key players to this matchup. And think about the rookies from week 2 of last year. That was only their 2nd NFL start. A lot has happened in the span of the year. Starting out with the Seahawks' dominant defense. They rank top 3 in about every defensive category you can think of or find. So far through 3 weeks, they rank 2nd in yards per game allowed. And the first player I want to talk about is edge rusher Boye Mafe. Racked up 9 sacks last year, and he is off to a great start of the season. 3 sacks already, and he's getting quarterback pressures like nothing. 7 through the first 2 games. He's dangerous. And on the other side, Derek Hall has 3 sacks of his own. This pass rush has been impressive through the first 3 weeks, and it's going to be fun to watch the Lions offensive line go up against it. And Jared Goff is going to have to throw the ball to his wide receivers being covered by 2 stud cornerbacks, Reek Woolen and year 2 Devin Witherspoon. Sadly, there are quite a few key injuries for both teams. Seattle's defense might be without Byron Murphy, their 1st round draft pick, 16th overall, as he left last week's game with a hamstring injury. And for the offensive backfield, Kenneth Walker probably not going to play. Walker left week 1's matchup against the Broncos with an abdomen injury. Hasn't played the last 2 weeks. He did that after rushing for over 100 yards and a touchdown. That's just a big loss for the offense. Walker is a special player. The offense isn't the same without him. Don't get me wrong, Charbonnet is good, but Walker is just on another level. And for the Lions, they're banged up. Starting out with edge rusher Marcus Davenport. The Lions signed him from the Saints last year. He was playing good and looking really promising. He's out for the season. Defensive captain Alex Anzalone was out last week against the Cardinals due to a concussion. Hopefully he is back. Derek Barnes, linebacker, also is going to miss some time. Brian Branch left last week's game with a concussion because he hits the other team and tackles with no regard for his own life. Laporta is not himself. He's been dealing with injuries for the first 3 weeks of the season. And probably the biggest loss, Frank Ragnow, torn pec. Could miss a good amount of time. People are saying he might play through it. He's not. It's looking like it's a good thing that the Lions have their bye week, week 5. Because most likely a lot of these players are going to sit. And I think it's a good idea. They all fully heal. It's just 1 game, and then they have the next week off. Geno Smith is going to have to go up against a tough Lions defense. Is looking better than ever. They've allowed 20 or less points through the first 3 games. Aiden Hutchinson is playing out of his mind. He's otherworldly. The way he's playing is mind-blowing. Geno Smith, I bet you he's scared. The Lions' run defense ranks second in rushing yards allowed per game, and most of them have been to quarterbacks. And Geno Smith, he's athletic, he can run, but that's not one of his main threats. It's not like Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. So Aiden Hutchinson's going to be able to go all out. And Aleem McNeil and the big sign from the Bengals, DJ Reader, that run defense is unbelievable. And with Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker out, your RB1, I'm guessing Geno Smith going to be throwing the ball a lot, and he's going to be testing this Lions secondary, who have been playing really well, although it's going to prove to be a tough matchup. JSN and Geno Smith's connection is growing. He's looking really good. DK Metcalf continues to prove through the first 3 weeks of the season that he is an athletic phenom. Tyler Lockett's still great, and Noah Fant, tight end, has been receiving a ton of attention from Geno Smith. I said the Seahawks are ranked second in total yards per game allowed. The Lions are ranked 10th, and they've been playing some pretty strong offenses, or rather really strong offenses. 2 playoff teams, and the Cardinals offense looks like one of the best in the NFL right now. Well, maybe before they played the Lions last week. A lot of that is due to the #1 draft pick, Terrion Arnold. He's been phenomenal through the first 3 weeks. Few penalties, no big deal. Last week, Arnold guarding Marvin Harrison Jr. 6 targets, only allowed 2 receptions for 31 yards. And everybody should know at this point how good Marvin Harrison Jr. is. But again, if Branch and Anzalone don't play, that coverage might struggle. Additionally, the Lions pass rush might struggle without Marcus Davenport. However, Hutch does have 7 more QB pressures than anybody else in the NFL right now. Last year, Geno Smith threw the ball 41 times. We all know Jared Goff won't be doing that. We saw how that went week 2. The Seahawks are 3-0. The Lions are 2-1. It's prime time. It's going to be a great game. The Lions are wearing their black uniforms. It's exciting. At Ford Field again, it has been loud there, and they want revenge. Now, I know I've been talking up the Seattle defense, and they look extremely good right now. However, I do want to point out that their week 1 matchup was Bo Nix. It was his first ever start. Rookie quarterbacks are never winning their first start very often. Second week, they played Jacoby Brissett. The Patriots have virtually no offense whatsoever. However, they're still able to run all over the Seattle defense with Ramondre Stevenson. And then week 3, it was Skylar Thompson. They're winning the games. They're showing up and playing, but I think their defense really hasn't been tested by a strong offense yet. With the Lions defense playing better and Kenneth Walker's out, I'm picking the Lions to win this game and finally end the drought of just losing and losing and losing to the Seahawks. But it's going to be close, and it's going to be a battle. You could also make the argument that the Lions offense doesn't look as good as it did last year. And they improved last week, but they're still not at top form. And with Frank out and Laporta not doing well, although Brock Wright does fill in very well, the Lions offense could struggle, and Seattle could rip apart injured Lions defense. My final score prediction is going to be 27-20. Lions win by a touchdown. This is just also because Lions run game is unbelievable. Frank could be a factor though, but David Montgomery is the backbone of this Lions offense, and he's a tank, and he can pick up 5 yards after being met on the line of scrimmage. I don't think the Seahawks will be able to run the ball very well without Kenneth Walker and against a good Lions run defense. Aleem McNeil, DJ Reader just closing the gaps. But I think the wide receivers, Noah Fant, the tight end, and Geno Smith are going to have their way a bit with the secondary. They're going to play well and keep it close. I'm hoping the Lions win. I'm picking them to win. It's going to be a good game. I'm excited to watch this matchup Monday night. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you enjoy my content, like, subscribe. Helps me out a lot. Thanks for watching.